In 2021, austere YouTubeologist Dan Olson, known best for his association with inspired and sincere artists such as Adam Conover and Lindsay Ellis, released Comfortably Doug, which functions both as media critique and demonstration of his acumen as it relates to meta-narrative film reviews of the early aughts. Unsatisfied with the thing bad methodology of the typical internet review, the verisimilitude of Dan's Doug dissection and bespoke analysis was perfectly suited for the thinking YouTube audience, first providing an earnest assessment of Pink Floyd's The Wall, before unpacking Doug Walker's lazy yet arrogant and prima facie puerile recreation of the 1979 musical breakthrough piece. And that's when James Rolfe taped lights to the ceiling. The Lindsays, the Sarah Z's, the H. Bomber guys, it's got, I mean, this is getting pretty cliche at this point to always start with like the AIDS epidemics of the 1980s.
The first cases of AIDS in the United States were reported in 1981.
So, yeah, anyway, today we're going to talk about Rent.
I think that's supposed to be the joke. What's supposed to be the joke is going to be a theme here.
I mean, I think I get the joke, I think. So we're talking about the Unfolding Ideas video.
Folding Ideas.
Unfolding. What is it?
Yeah, the channel is called Folding Ideas.
Folding Ideas.
It's a channel that's dedicated to media criticism by host and filmmaker Dan Olson. Very popular channel. It's got, I think, like 1 million subs or something. His biggest videos have millions of views. He is, as they are known on YouTube, a bread tuber, I would say. He's of that intelligentsia, YouTube essayist thing.
Okay, so I've heard the term bread tube. What is that?
It's got something to do with bread lines and communism.
I really didn't know. Like, really?
Yeah, I think I'm just making either that or I'm making it up. Let's see. The term bread tube derives from The Conquest of Bread, a book explaining how to achieve anarcho-communism.
Oh, wow. You're right.
I'm right.
I've heard the term, but I thought there would be like some other like meme but no, it's just communist.
No, they're just being called communists.
Commies are brilliant. You have to hand it to them.
So the only video I've seen of his was the Wall.
Okay, you saw that.
I saw that one when he talked about Doug Walker. I mean, I liked it. You know, it is fun to clown on that video. It did I think it doesn't sit very well with me if I start thinking about it, but I had a fine time with it.
He did a dissection of the video editing in Suicide Squad, the 2017 Suicide Squad movie, or 2016. The one that I was very familiar with was Comfortably Doug, making fun of his bad review of The Wall. Very in depth, taking Doug very seriously as if he's like an associate professor of YouTube and
yes.
Is doing a thesis on Doug. Which again, I think is maybe there's some baked in irony to that, that Doug.
I think so.
Doug doesn't deserve this level of critique, probably.
He is YouTube's own homegrown Tommy Wiseau or Neil Breen, complete with the same unwillingness to learn how a camera works.
So this one, people have been screaming at us to review it or to comment on it. I watched it. I actually didn't have a horrible time with it. I thought there was a lot of. So it's very very intentionally pretentious.
Yeah.
Where stark camera angles. He does the playing a tape recorder or recording, a screen of a screen or things like that. To some point, but to me, actually, I as pretentious as it was, I found it kind of refreshing because I've been watching so many people just talking into a webcam that I was like, this is at least something different.
Yeah, it's cool to pull out your camera and do something creative. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it is commenting on film schooly stuff. That's kind of the joke
because they talk about the movie Wavelength, which is James' film school movie that he hated, and this guy's a film snob. I don't even think I'm insulting him. I think he brands himself as a film snob.
Yeah, I'm sure he's read Boardwell and all that stuff. So, So this video painstakingly goes through, especially like it seems inspired by all of our videos. I mean, he's inspired by the
And all the same shit we said.
It's a great summary of our videos.
A lot more. Well, you know, I still think that the creative choice to snap on a pair of short shorts and sit at the arcades was more inspired. Bespoke
inefficiencies that you just live with, a bespoke inefficiency that I can stare directly at.
Here's the long and short of it, if you haven't seen it, because it is like 90 minutes, right? Or an hour or something.
Which is actually short, you know, with Dylan the Night Owl's like 6-hour videos. It's sometimes nice to have an hour video.
Yeah, although I wouldn't call it tight.
No, it's not. If you watch it on 1.75 speed, it's tight.
I feel a certain amount of kinship with James Rolfe.
He is overanalyzing James Rolfe's behind-the-scene video. Have you ever seen any videos about that, folks? When we came out with that video, it was very, like, we were really hated. I mean, I was just getting assaulted by negative comments.
Yeah, we were like, we had to like hide the video temporarily. Yeah.
And like, is it just perfectly safe now to clown on James, and that's why he did it? He calls Mike Matei. He pronounces Mike Matei Mike Matai.
No, yeah, it's very funny.
University buddy Mike Matai. Can you imagine Mike Matai? Mike Matai.
Again, he's a film snob. He's a film production snob. So he knows his way around equipment, and so much like us, he snobs out about all of James's really clownish decisions.
This right here, I mean, look at this thing. Look how cute this is. This is a GoPro.
He kind of mentions that, like, he remembers being in college. He remembers watching AVGN because friends pointed it out, but he himself never was a fan or a follower. I can tell that, like, James's comedy is not this dude's bag.
In my universe, it's not Berenstein or Berenstain. It's Bloodstain.
You know, I don't want to, because there's a high probability he may even see this, so I'm not going to, like, say he disdains or looks down on James, but it kind of feels like he does.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to put emotions into his head, but
he definitely does Doug. Holy shit. Like, I don't think he gives a fuck about Doug. And he is buddies with Lindsay Ellis. Lindsay Ellis, of course, is embattled with Doug. This is what I'm like offended by this video on several layers. The first one being, it seems to me like this dude goes after people when there's license to go after people. You know, I know we've made a lot of videos about James, but I don't feel any. I mean, I like him. I think he's cool, and I really like what I followed him. I didn't miss a video. I watched every Turtle Tuesday and Monster Madness. I went to the website and refreshed it. You know, I was a fan.
Yeah, we might clown on him. We might clown on him, but
totally clown on him.
I really do attribute a lot of my thoughts or like my interest in going to film school to him because, you know, that was during like 2008 was when I was watching a lot of his videos, and then I started applying to grad school and then I went to Emerson after that. So he's definitely an inspiration. So it comes from the place from a fan.
What inspired the discussions in the first place for me was, first of all, the broader topic of like, what does it look like to lose your passion for, like, because he's a very passionate person for his creativity. What does it look like to lose that passion? Is it okay to mourn the fact that he's losing that passion? That's part of it. Because a lot of people right away are like, oh, you just grow out of shit and you just quit things you used to do. And, you know, and I'm like, well, much like Inside Out 2, I'm like, you know, there was a lot of James Rolfe wrapped up in that creative identity. And I don't think children and, you know, I think children and family are the most important things in the world, but I don't think they're reasons to lose yourself. And so that was one of the first reasons I felt like talking to him about him all those years ago. And the other reason was because of the mismanagement, just the basic mismanagement of the company was really compelling. It seems to me like his hook is like, I thought this guy was a filmmaker. I thought this guy prided himself on his DIY techniques, and how come they're so incompetent, and how come he hasn't developed as a person very much? You know, that's kind of where it starts, right?
He starts off with that behind the scenes video. You watch that and it ignites your imagination. And I can see that it similarly ignites his imagination. There's a you took a video of us and like John and I reacting to it live, which is kind of a fun relic.
Especially for the movie reviews. That way I can look directly at the camera while reading the script. It's the speed of the text scroll with a mouse and keyboard. It's a little tricky because to a mirror, which is a one-way glass.
He's like solving
So
a
when I
bunch
come
of
into
like
the room and
really
go to
stupid
work,
problems with
all I
really
gotta do
stupid
is flick
solutions.
one
Like
to
just
take
light the
wire
room
down,
then.
and
Dan went to film school as well, so I think he sees some sort of kinship to James Rolfe. So seeing like how did he go wrong, but it's also framed in a way, the video, because he uses all these kind of film schooly type gimmicks throughout. I think he's doing a critical eye to himself, like because he even like projects James's face on him while he's doing like a fake angry rant. He's projecting something onto James and projecting that back to himself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it rings a little hollow to me because first of all, they're nothing alike.
James expresses a desire to keep things out of his way, tripods, light stands, and such.
Hey, we're both wearing blue shirts today. When does that ever happen?
I don't know.
One of them is like a kind of lowbrow DIY doofus, and who's also has a huge fan base and is very successful. And the other guy is like a big time snob. So,
it is a wrong thing, a kludged together precarious mess whose wrongness is intuitively apparent even to those who have little familiarity with the equipment of filmmaking.
somebody actually, I had mentioned on Reddit, like somebody was asking, I was like, well, I hadn't seen it yet, and I was like, his other stuff is pretty pretentious, and they're like, how, and I mean no disrespect, but how is it pretentious? And I'm like, if this isn't pretentious, then we need new words. I don't, like, if you asked me, like, can you show me something pretentious? I'd show you this. And they were like, but people have called you pretentious. I was like, I didn't take a projector of James Rolfe and put him on my face and make art out of it and shoot myself profile and silhouette while like constructing James Rolfe's original like tripod mount.
This thing is very strange to build, physically confounding at times.
I make fun, but generally speaking, I thought it was coherent and followable. But I have some major issues. You and I asked the same question when the video hit, and everybody was telling us, we were like, are we in it?
Yeah. It's like, did Senpai mention us?
There's not like a 10-minute segment, right? Where he's like, and these two fucking assholes.
It's like, oh no, gotta lock our comment section.
Whoa, here they come. The bread tubers over the horizon. Every time like I said earlier, every time the guy talks about one of these doofy YouTubers, I'm kind of like, is this below you? Is this above you? Like, what is the, like, why would a super genius like yourself feel the need to like talk about these like kind of doofy guys that are, stumbling in the dark sometimes?
He projects onto James because he read a lot of the book, and he said he comes away that James thinks that he's a failed filmmaker because he barely talks about the nerd.
I don't think that at all, by the way. I think that's totally a wrong interpretation.
Yeah, I don't think James thinks of himself as a failed filmmaker at all. I think he doesn't even think about it 1 second.
Believe it or not, I kind of know the feeling because there was a time, believe it or not, when I thought my future with the school was over and that my career was over.
What he's projecting onto James is actually something he's projecting onto himself, which I think he's coming to terms with himself as a YouTuber. That's what I think the video's about.
I don't know what he's made for like feature. I know he's worked on stuff for years and years, but the reason I know that is because the very first time I ever saw Dan, he was co-hosting a video with Lindsay Ellis because I was subbed to her channel, and it was called Should You Go to Film School? And they, it's a fine video and whatever, but they give off I rewatched it today in preparation. They give off this energy. Do you remember being in like 5th grade and like you were going to go to middle school the next year, and like the 6th graders would come and visit and they would talk to you like they were, grizzled old, like just worn by experience, and they would talk to you like children and stuff. They come off it's like very above it all, very like we have a lot of experience and we're weathered by it.
But here's the thing, like, it's so much harder.
Yeah.
It's like just, I mean, I can't.
And, you know, they talk about, they're like, we don't like, you know, students who think that media crit is a waste of time. You know, media interpretation, media literacy.
I'm a huge fan. I believe in media literacy.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that media literacy has become the new, like, you can't throw a rock without hitting somebody that mentions media literacy. It's kind of becoming a shortcut to invalidating somebody else's opinion.
The little gatekeeping, that's their gatekeeping action.
This review is not media literate.
Mm.
I didn't. You didn't read it.
James isn't media literate for this guy.
I mean, James is media illiterate, but that's okay. I like it. It's charming. Based on his pronunciations, I'd say he's just plain old illiterate. But...
No, I won't stand it.
Yeah, I won't stand for it.
How about we'll pronounce our words however we want? Everybody's different. Talk the way you talk. Anybody who objects, shut the hell up, suck our cocks in.
There was a bit that I was like, fuck you, Dan. Fuck you, Dan. There was a bit where he gave James shit for self-publishing. Self-publish!
And I need your help.
Self-publish!
No, never.
Self-publish!
No.
You just go to lulu.com.
Makes perfect fucking sense!
Because he felt that to self-publish it means that the whole thing is self-serving. I was like, well, of course it's self-serving. It's a fucking therapy journal about the time he trashed a fan. How would you suggest that a YouTuber put out a memoir to their fans? Like, you shouldn't have to go through Penguin Putnam to do that, you know?
And you don't think like Screenwave didn't ship this around to every single thing
totally
in the
did.
world?
They totally did. And I think it's stupid, you know? He referred to the six Snicks flicks as the Snicks sextology, which I thought was very funny.
The Snicks sextology, getting suspended for an academic year.
I thought the whole thing with the camera mount was really like you could solve this with just one bolt, and he showed that, and I thought that was pretty funny. And I liked the miniature that he made of the little room, and it really gives a scale of how small that space actually is.
Yeah, that was really good. I was very that was by far my favorite part of the video, was just seeing a little dollhouse in James's room. I just loved it.
Overall, I did enjoy the video. Like it may seem like we are being overly negative, and maybe we are, and we do have our grief.
So I actually don't like the video. I think it sucks.
I don't know. I have complicated feelings, but I do. I liked a lot of things about it. I think for most people that would be his audience, it's probably a fine. Just like overview of James Rolfe's weirdness. If you don't want to, get in the mud with us, if you don't want to
listen to Lady Emily go on, because essentially she provides the same content. There are things that I like about the video. The reason that I dislike the video is not so much. It's more the sum of its parts that the more than the sum of its parts that I don't like. I think that the video lacks integrity. Because it mischaracterizes several arguments, which I don't like. It takes license to make fun of somebody who is now popular to make fun of. Almost all of this material you mine from Cinemassacre Truth. And then but then you have to add it. You're like, yeah, I've been reading Cinemassacre Truth like a madman for the past month in preparation for this video, but they're all monsters. Anyway, it's called having your cake and eating it too.
I watched these two things actually on the same day as the Red Letter Media Acolyte review, and they do a similar thing where they spend like an hour trying to distance themselves from people who would criticize a certain piece of media or a certain thing, but then go on to make the same criticisms or similar criticisms. It's like
if I don't distance myself, then I'm going to get accused of being something that I'm not. And I feel like Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad. I'm like, you're the smartest person I ever met. You're too stupid to see. They made up their mind 10 minutes ago.
You gotta tell them now that we can work this out. Please. Please. You're too stupid to see. He made up his mind 10 minutes ago.
I liked when he talked about how James never took accountability for the room goer incident with the vandalism.
Yes.
That's really big because it's a theme. He doesn't mention the plagiarism once, which I think is fascinating. I don't know how you don't.
Oh yeah, he didn't. Wow, you're
didn't
right.
Even mention it. It's a huge part of the story, and the fact that James did the whole even though I didn't do it thing. James definitely has an accountability problem.
So my apologies. Even though I'm not the one who did it, it was me who trusted that person.
Some of the things he says about James in general, it comes from somebody who doesn't get it in the first place. Mm-hmm. And you might say, well, what's there to get? It's talking about buffalo diarrhea on an NES game. It's well, because AVGN existed in a time and a place. That's media generally. It tends to exist in a time and a place, and that accounts for most of your connection to it. And so if you never really experienced that, I'm not sure you're the best person to rip him apart, If you were a casual AVGN fan, or let's say that you haven't watched AVGN in 5 years, but you maybe used to dabble in it, I think this video would be kind of incoherent, or it would be very challenging to follow, especially with all the pretension.
Well, the thing is, I think that's his audience. His audience expects some sort of, I don't know, some pinky lifting, I think they expect that, and he's serving what they expect or what they want.
So let's get into it. So mischaracterization number 1. He says that James detractors, of which he is one. He's making a very fancy video about what a dipshit James is.
Yeah.
But the James detractors primarily want him to not commit to his family and instead make more content for them. And it's that look, I'm not an expert at much in life. The one thing I'm an expert at is what people are saying about James Rolfe, because I get notifications all day, every day for years.
Yes.
They tend to be I can give you categories. One of the categories of things people say is, fuck you, you're jealous, he can do what he wants, it's free. That's with decreasing frequency. I don't see it as much now, actually. Yeah. But that used to be very popular. The other thing that people enjoy about James detraction is the memes. There's so many of them. I mean, the catchphrase, the 540s and the...
Oh, yeah. He was putting down the in-jokes.
Yeah, if you ever want a guide to those, Brown Electrons just put up a video that people should check out. Friend of ours and a real shit poster.
Yeah, he's an excellent shit poster, excellent human.
I would say probably the most common kind of comment we get are long-winded diatribes about James. Big multi-paragraph. I just think that Mike really played a role in, and then when Mike went away, it just tends to be really thought out stuff. He was this is just a bunch of haters that do in fact want to see him suffer, that do in fact want to see him toil, that want to relegate him as a lolcow, and they think that he'd still be great if it weren't for his bitch wife. That's what he says in the video.
Now is as good a time as any to mention the odd conflict that swirls around James. He has attracted a not insubstantial audience of cankerous hate watchers, self-styled truthers who have made a hobby of disseminating what they see to be the truth of James Rolfe, a cuckolded visionary who could have had it all if he hadn't been laid low by his bitch wife.
It's do people suggest on the Cinemaster Truth subreddit that April is the cause of all this? Yes. If you went to Cinemaster Truth right now, EJ, and you posted something along the lines of April is a bitch and she ruined AVGN, what would happen to that post?
It'd probably be downvoted, and maybe there'd be a couple comments being shut up.
Yeah, they'd be keep his wife. I see it all the time. Keep his wife out of it. I don't really see what that has to do with anything. There'd be a few memes. They'd be yes, certainly, as if I'm not aware.
Yeah, because even when he mentions those things, he puts comments up, but they only have 2 upvotes. Maybe they're there's no traction to the comments that he puts up. It's he's And
honestly, if it was just straight up April sucks or whatever, the mods would take it down. So you can't, as usual, it's you can't characterize what amounts to literally thousands of people.
And the thing about fans want him to suffer, it's we just posted a video about the school he went to, the college he went to, closing. And people commented like, what I like about this is it's good to see James just talking about something he's passionate about. Like people, that's what people are missing, I think. And they tell us that. So it's it's totally not true that they want him to just ignore his family and, and spoil away.
Like we said it years ago. I hear it all the time, which is like, I wouldn't mind if he only uploaded twice a year if there were things he wanted to do. And I get like what he wants to do is Rex Viper, and nobody wants that either. But what they mean is like if he were to actually have a project that would be consumable in some way. Again, I think it's just like it's a cowardly, like very easy thing to do, to just be like, oh, like this internet community full of people is they're this, they're that, and the other thing. You know, so that he was my very after Are We In It? My very second question was, at what time code does he start calling everybody a bunch of like bigots?
Yeah, he goes through the whole list.
It's all just a vehicle for ableism, fat phobia, sexism, transphobia, and they're Chan trolls. It's not that deep.
And what I keep seeing people, they're like, how come transphobic? And what a lot of people don't know is that there was like kind of a brief period where like Ryan appeared, in what seemed to be female clothing on or feminine clothing on the last episode of Talk About Games. And it was unclear, like, hey, is he transitioning or whatever? And some people were posting about that. And guess what? Like the transphobic ones got blocked like immediately. Yeah. Even if it is like a lot of transphobes on there, like the mods know that you get blocked for transphobia. Now, fat phobia, you got a point. I mean, you got a point. Like, I'm not going to take fat phobia from you. Although phobia, yeah. I have of course it's a nomenclature problem. I think, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, no. Fat phobia is what my dad has, which is like, if he's around like a John or like a really fat person, he'll get like anxious, like as if he's going to catch it or something. It makes him feel unhealthy to be like around fat people. It actually is kind of like a weird phobia. Dude, I've told this story before, but it was Christmas time when I was a little kid and we got the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, and Tim Allen involuntarily gets fat for the entire year. And my dad was like exhaling in stress. And he had to he went for a run at 7:00 at night on Christmas Day. Oh. No, I think what they're doing is they're bullying people for their looks. That is true.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, the slob thing, it's true.
Somebody tried to make, they were like, well, slob isn't necessarily fat. And I'm like, it's a factor. You know, the guy, Dan, he's no comedian. So he ends the video by doing like a parody of AVGN, and I really don't know what the point of that was.
It's not a very good like representation of what like an AVGN episode is. It's more like a Jeremy Parrish review than a AVGN review. Yeah. Because I don't think he can get into that space. He can't. He's
not a funny person. And anyway, I appreciated during his whole projection moment. I appreciated that he was like, hey, like, getting mad on command is hard. Performing is hard. Like he gave it up for James in that regard.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to get mad on camera? There's a whole instinct of embarrassment, of self-preservation that you need to bury.
All right, here's the big kahuna. This motherfucker, Dan Olson, has the gall to suggest that AVGN has in no way declined over the years, and that it's the same as it ever was, like the Talking Heads song, the same as it ever was, and that and he uses the term fans who think it's declined are spooked by their own shadow. They're actually just getting old. They have amnesia. They're misremembering. They've grown out of it. It's still the same. Let me tell you what I'm sick of. That fucking argument.
The truthers claiming that the show is bad now are getting spooked by their own shadows. The show is what it's always been. It isn't bad now, but good in the past. You're just getting older.
Yeah, it's probably the most popular argument on Twitter. Like, it's like it's always been bad. What are you talking about?
You're like, hey, this sucks. Old. And they're like, don't say it sucks. I'm like, but it does. And they're like, well, it's always sucked.
Because no, obviously his earlier stuff has more like passion, more interest, like more character, more everything. It'd be like saying The Simpsons. It's always the same. It's like before. It's like no, it didn't.
And like just because you can demonstrate like they made a joke in 2024, they made a joke in 1997. What? You know, that tends to be the argument. Like again, like I remember, I'm old enough to remember prequel hate. and people would say like, but the dialogue is terrible in the prequels, and they'd be like, the dialogue was terrible in the original one. So basically they're the same, and you've changed. It's so fucking tiresome. It's cringe is what it is.
Whatever. Let he who is without cringe throw the first stone.
But I think that comes from him never being a fan to begin with, too.
Yes. So we have a friend who had never seen AVGN. So he just binged all of them. Imagine watching all 200 episodes of that, 200 plus episodes of that thing, like just in a row. Yeah, you wouldn't see any distinction between one episode and the other, and you'd be like, I don't get it, and I don't think there's been a decline. But again, it's like you like time and place, novelty. The games he was doing back then were like not overdone now. He had more of that Jersey accent. They were shorter. They were structured significantly differently. He enjoyed doing them, and you could tell. So I think that's kind of all I wanted to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, just watch our videos. You probably already do.
I'm still okay here. Like, it feels like he wanted to trash on James, but he didn't feel comfortable trashing all the way because of the existence of TCT. And
yes,
whereas, and this is one of the things that offends me, he seemed to feel perfectly comfortable shitting on Doug Walker, like full speed ahead.
Yeah, it's because there was already an anchor for hate on his team.
But no, mostly I just think that some of the arguments are really weak, and maybe I'm extra frustrated for the same reason people get frustrated with me, because I tend to speak with like confidence. Watching somebody speak confidently about something that they're like clearly mischaracterizing, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. Yeah. So I would never watch it again, but I would totally look at that diorama again and have a chuckle, because I did like the diorama. He's obviously crafty, talented. He's cool. I think Dan's kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't really like some of his arguments, but I think I did enjoy the video, and you should check it out.
I wonder if he's a little autistic phobic, making fun of Doug Walker like that.
Oh, wait, do you think is Doug Walker autistic? I didn't read his memoir.
First of all, yes. Second of all, if to whatever extent he's not, boy is he adjacent. I mean, boy is he's a hotbed. He's a petri dish of like autistic stuff. His brother obviously is.
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah.
His dad seems to be. His entire film crew appears to be. Everybody that comes within, a mile radius of him appears to be.
Doug wants to be a filmmaker. He wants to make art, but he can't, because he's a fundamentally incurious person who isn't much interested in what other people think or feel.
I mean, what that guy was saying sounded very intelligent. It sounded like he knew, had a real passion for it, enjoyed talking about. A review of a review can also be its own work of art.
It's a deeply cynical product made by a fundamentally untalented man, bored by the idea of personal growth, building so many layers of self-protective irony that it becomes unintentionally revealing.
But no, you want people to look at and like it and enjoy your work, and you want to try and spread ideas and joy and stuff. And that one obviously got really taken in a direction that I was not intending, but that's part of putting yourself out there.
When I was watching that film school video, actually, I believe that predated Change the Channel. And so the first time I saw it many, many years ago, I didn't catch that they took a swipe at Doug in that video. They were talking about film sets, and hey, if you've never been on a film set before, they operate very differently than you think. So I mean, you have to know about safety. They were like overstating like the gatekeeping, and then they were like, and not gonna name any names, but I've been on a film set where, and then Dan's like, how were craft services on that film set? And she was like, oh, don't get me started on Doug Walker's inadequate craft services. Oh my God, pull your head out of your ass.
The way you think film sets work, if you've never worked on one or never been taught how they work, you're wrong. Yeah. Holy God, are you wrong? Like, I'm not gonna name any names here, but I've been on some sets by people who have never been on a real set that are just a total shit show.
How were craft services on those sets?
Yeah.
When it comes to YouTube, everybody wants to accuse everybody else of grifting. And I've never felt like I could possibly be accused of such a thing because we just don't make nearly enough money.
In some cases, we deliberately anti-grift. So
yeah, like I'm not grifting. And so initially, I like my instinct, I think yours too, was like, let's not make anything because it then just becomes like I did a commentary video. Now you commented on Mike. You never like just let somebody have their commentary video. It feels a little bit unfair. I don't think we've ever once, like not once, have we noticed a trend on YouTube or like something that was trending or something that would like do well and be like, oh, we should do something on that because like it'll do well. What we have done many, many times, sometimes against our own desires, is our current subscribers ask for something and then we feel obligated to give it to them. But I guess it was fun to talk to you about Dan Olson. Sure. Why not?
I think there was enough here that obviously we had enough to talk about. And also, like, at a certain point, you get enough comments, you want them to go away.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. A lot of like... around like, is this person fucking with me? Like, or it's we're on like week 2 and somebody would be like, hey, not sure if anybody shared this with you, but Dan Olson from Folding Ideas made a video. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But thank you for sending me that link. Please subscribe to our Patreon.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.